Sometimes people can learn their first scream, but when they try to learn a second type of scream, they get stuck. Maybe you learn false chords but can't do fries, or maybe you got fry screams down but false chords just won't click. This happens because your second scream works totally different than you think. I'm going to show you why your second scream is harder and the 3 habits you need to break in order to unlock it. So let's talk about why your second scream is harder to learn. The reason is that different screams require completely different habits. And when you learn your first scream, you develop habits that make it easy to do that scream. Then what happens is that you keep on reinforcing those habits for that scream over and over as you get better at that scream. You even start to develop a dopamine response where the more you do it that way, the more your brain says, oh yeah, that sounds good. And it kind of rewards your brain when you do it well. This makes it extra hard to break those habits when you try to learn a different scream. Let me show you what I mean. Let's compare a false chord scream to what I call a lower chest fry scream. So a false chord scream to a lower chest fry scream. These sound completely different, right? That's because they use 3 totally different habits. So I'm going to walk you through the 3 biggest differences between false chord screams and lower chest fry screams. Habit number 1. First, you got to get into the habit of closing your throat tighter to do a fry scream. But false chord screams can be done while your throat is more open. So if you're used to false chords, then your throat wants you to stay open. But for fry, you need it to be tight. So here's me being more open for a false chord. Compared to a fry with a tighter closed throat. Can you hear how the false chords are more open and the fry are more tight? Habit number 2. Second, if you do a lower chest fry, many students have to push 10 out of 10 from their stomach, like really hard. But those same students only need to push about 5 out of 10 for a false chord scream. So if you're used to false chords where you got to push only a medium amount from your stomach, and then you try fry but forget to push super hard, then it falls apart. And your brain just keeps wanting to go back to that comfortable medium 5 out of 10 push that you got used to for false chords. Habit number 3. You have to place the vibrations lower in your throat for a chest fry, but false chord screams happen more up in your nasal area, right up here. And by the way, if you're struggling with any of this, I got a free training that goes deeper into different approaches for both screams, and it'll show you how to get free live feedback from me. So links in the description if you're interested. Back to the video. Now you know 3 of the biggest habit differences between false chords and lower place chest fry. Here's what makes this tricky. You need to do all 3 of these habits at the same time to switch screams from one scream to the other. And that's where people get stuck. So let me tell you about one of my students. He knew how to false chord scream, but he struggled to learn lower chest fry. And out of the 3 habits I just told you about, he could only remember to do 1 or 2 of those things at a time. For example, he'd try to close his throat tighter and place the vibrations lower, but he'd forget to push 10 out of 10 from his stomach. Or he would push 10 out of 10 from his stomach and place the vibrations lower, but forget to close his throat tighter. So as a result, his chest fry scream would fall apart. It wouldn't sound good and it would feel uncomfortable. But here's what makes this especially hard. When it starts sounding bad and feeling bad, your brain is like, oh no, I don't like this. Then the easiest way for his brain to fix that is to bring the placement back up to his false chords and open up his throat. And boom, he's back to his old scream. And the tricky part is that by doing this, he'd think that he fixed the problem, when in reality, he just went back to what felt comfortable, which was a false chord scream. So he wouldn't actually be doing the new lower place chest fry scream. He would revert back to his false chord screams, sometimes without even knowing it. So how do we fix this? First, you need the right mindset. You need to accept that you won't sound as good at first as you learn this new scream. In fact, you need to think about it differently. If you're sounding bad or feeling uncomfortable, that's actually a good thing, because that means you're doing something different than what you're used to. Second, know what the differences are between the habits of one scream and the other and form a checklist. And whenever you're trying your new scream, look at the checklist and ask yourself, am I doing all of these new habits at the same time or just a few of them? Recap. So here's what we learned. Your second scream is harder because you've reinforced the first scream's habits. Next, different screams often need multiple different habits to be set in place in order to make the leap from one scream to another. And you need to change all of them at the same time to successfully make that leap. Next, remember, if your second scream sounds bad at first, that's good because it means that you're trying to break old habits. Next, use the checklist to make sure you're doing all 3 new habits at the same time. So remember, if you want that free training on different approaches for these screams and you want to learn how to get live feedback from me for free, the link's in the description. And if you want to learn about different types of fry screams and their unique rules, then click here. Okay, so now you know some of the differences between fry and false chord screams. What if I told you that there's actually different types of fry screams and different rules with them? So if you're interested in learning about the different types of fry screams and how to do them, then click this video here.